What does it take for an outsider to earn honor in a land that accepts none?
Shadow Art Chief.
The Portuguese ship emerged from the mist like a ghost, its sails worn from storms and gunfire, its deck slick with brine and sweat. Below deck, crammed between crates of Jesuit Bibles and muskets wrapped in cloth, stood a man unlike anything Japan had ever seen. Yasuke. He was taller than any sailor on board, over 6 feet, and his skin shimmered like obsidian under the East Asian sun. The Japanese villagers who saw him step ashore in the port of Sakai thought him a demon, a deity, or a statue come to life. Children screamed. Priests made the sign of the cross. The Jesuit missionary, Alessandro Valignano, simply placed a hand on the man's shoulder, announcing, "This is my protector." Word spread quickly through the merchant alleys and samurai strongholds. A giant black man had landed in Japan. Not long after, Yasuke found himself standing inside the castle of Oda Nobunaga, the most powerful and unpredictable warlord in the country. Nobunaga was no ordinary daimyo. He wore Western boots, collected guns from Europe, and entertained astrologers and heretics. To him, the arrival of Yasuke was not a curiosity. It was a sign. The room fell silent as Yasuke was brought before the Lord. Servants whispered. Nobunaga's retainers tightened their hands on sword hilts. But the daimyo laughed, a sharp, deliberate bark, and demanded that Yasuke strip to the waist. Nobunaga ordered his skin scrubbed, believing it to be painted with ink. When no color came off, the laughter returned. "This man," Nobunaga said, "is strong. He is not like the others. He will stay." And so the warrior's transformation began, not in the crucible of battle, but in the strange, glittering halls of power. Yasuke was trained, not from scratch. He already knew the weight of a blade, the rhythm of footwork, the pain of impact. But now he was taught in the Japanese way. Katana strikes, the tea ceremony, the codes of Bushido. The robes of a retainer replaced his tattered European garments. He was given a home inside the Azuki castle and the rank of samurai, unthinkable for a foreigner. He served closely, often at Nobunaga's side. The warlord trusted few men. His ambition was too great, his enemies too many. Yasuke became more than a bodyguard. He was a shadow, a watcher in court meetings, a force on the battlefield. And Japan was burning. The Sengoku period was an age of chaos. Provinces rose and fell like tides. Feudal lords turned on each other in the dark. Temples were set aflame. Children were born only to be sent to war. But Nobunaga had a vision. To unify it all under one banner, his own. Yasuke witnessed massacres. He stood at the Battle of Tenmokuzen, where the Takeda clan was crushed by Nobunaga's firearms. He marched through fields of ash and rice paddies soaked in blood. Yet he never wavered. Then came the betrayal. June, 1582. Kyoto was heavy with summer heat, thick with tension. Oda Nobunaga had taken refuge in Honnō-ji, a quiet Buddhist temple turned makeshift command post. His campaign to conquer the western provinces was nearing its end. Enemies had fallen, allies bowed, he believed victory was inevitable. Yasuke was there, less a guard now, more a sentinel. He saw Nobunaga in rare moments of reflection, sipping bitter tea, staring at old maps, hands trembling just enough to reveal exhaustion. The warlord spoke less in those final days. His voice was tired, perhaps he sensed what was coming. Because fate was already moving. Akechi Mitsuhide, one of Nobunaga's most trusted generals, had begun to shift his army, not toward the enemy, but back toward Kyoto. His excuse was vague, his soldiers, tense, and on the morning of June 21, they encircled Honnō-ji. The thunder of drums shattered the temple's calm. Yasuke rushed into the chamber, swords drawn. He found Nobunaga unarmored, caught in prayer. Their eyes met only once, no words, only understanding. Nobunaga knew this was the end. He would not be taken. He would not flee. As flames began licking the wooden walls of Honnō-ji, Nobunaga turned the blade on himself. Yasuke fought. He cut through Akechi's men with ferocity, his armor blackened with soot, his body a silhouette in the fire. But there were too many. They didn't kill him. They didn't dare. A foreign samurai was too strange to execute. Akechi's officers bound Yasuke in chains and dragged him to Kyoto. Some believed he was a beast. Others thought he was immortal. Akechi dismissed him as an animal, not worth killing. Yasuke was handed over to Jesuits, his fate sealed not by steel, but politics. His master was dead, his sword confiscated, his name vanishing into silence. Story left little behind. After the fall of Nobunaga, Yasuke disappeared from the records. Some say he returned to the Jesuit missions in Nagasaki. Others claim he fled into the mountains, living as a ronin. A few whisper that he became a ghost of vengeance, striking down Mitsuhide's men in secret. What is certain is this: Akechi Mitsuhide would rule for only 13 days. In less than 2 weeks, he was hunted down by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Nobunaga's loyal general. Akechi's body was found desecrated in a ditch, his skull missing. It was said Nobunaga's spirit cursed him, that the betrayal at Honnō-ji poisoned the soil beneath it. And somewhere in the ashes of fallen temples and bloodied fields, the Black Samurai became legend. In later centuries, travelers in the Kansai region told stories of a towering figure in dark armor, moving through the trees at dusk. Some said he carried a broken katana, others that he rode alone on a pale horse, never speaking. The man who had arrived as an outsider had become something more, a myth standing at the crossroads of history and mystery. Yasuke was not the first foreigner to come to Japan, but he was the only one to rise through its ranks in such a time of war and betrayal. And though he vanished from the chronicles, his shadow still walks where empires once burned. Decades passed. Japan changed. Toyotomi Hideyoshi finished what Nobunaga started, uniting the fractured nation under one rule. The swords of samurai clashed less often now, replaced by rigid laws and social order. Foreigners were expelled, Christianity was outlawed, the age of chaos gave way to the Tokugawa shogunate, a time of silence and control. But stories refused to die. Among the traveling ronin, there were whispered tales of a warrior who came from beyond the seas. A man with skin dark as ink and eyes that burned with memory. Some claimed he trained a secret group of mountain swordsmen. Others believed he wandered Japan, seeking redemption or revenge. In the southern provinces, old men told of a foreign monk who wore tattered armor beneath his robes, who never spoke unless spoken to, and who prayed before every meal with the discipline of a samurai. No one could say where he came from, or where he vanished to. But all agreed, he carried the spirit of the old days. Meanwhile, Western explorers landing in Nagasaki decades later found something peculiar. In the archive of a Jesuit mission, buried under Latin scriptures and ship manifests, was a torn document, a record of a man named Yasuke, described as a servant turned samurai under Lord Nobunaga. The page ended abruptly, but a final note remained in the margin. He serves with honor. He learns our ways. He speaks our tongue. He believes in nothing, and yet follows everything. If war comes again, he will not run. He has no home, yet this land may one day call him its own. The record was unsigned. In 1582, the year of Honnō-ji, the world was changing faster than ever. Europe was colonizing the coasts of the East. Gunpowder reshaped warfare. Old beliefs crumbled beneath the weight of commerce and steel. Yet in that maelstrom of change, one man, foreign by every measure, was accepted by one of the fiercest, most insular cultures on Earth. Yasuke's rise wasn't just improbable, it was impossible. He transcended language, race, and religion. Not because of cunning or trickery, but because of strength, loyalty, and something Japan understood deeply, honor. Even in death, Nobunaga had recognized it. His enemies feared it, his allies envied it. And today, Yasuke's name rises again, not from scrolls or monuments, but from the mouths of the forgotten. In manga panels, murals in Osaka, whispered stories in the alleyways of Kyoto, the Black Samurai lives again. Some call him a footnote in Japan's warring era. But those who know, those who remember, know better. He was a storm, a blade, a shadow. He was Yasuke. And he belonged to no one, but history itself. Yasuke walked out of Kyoto not as a warrior, but as a relic. Unarmed, unclaimed, unwanted. The Jesuits took him in, begrudgingly. Valignano, his old patron, was gone, recalled to Macau. The new European missionaries viewed Yasuke with unease. He no longer fit into their world. He had lived as a samurai, spilled blood under a daimyo's banner. And worse, he had adapted. He wore his hair in the Japanese style, ate with chopsticks, prayed less and spoke sparingly. His soul, they feared, had gone native. For months, Yasuke lingered in Nagasaki, a port now thick with suspicion and spies. Christianity was under fire. The shogunate tightened its grip. Foreigners were monitored, converts were tortured, and in the shadows, the name, Nobunaga, remained cursed, a symbol of dangerous rebellion. Yasuke was a man without a master, in a land that no longer wanted outsiders. But something in him refused to leave. By 1587, Yasuke had vanished into the interior. He abandoned Jesuit compounds, slipped past patrols, and took up a sword again, not as a samurai, but as a ronin, a masterless warrior. He wandered the provinces, offering his strength to village lords, protecting merchants, even training children in swordsmanship. He fought bandits in the mountains of Kyushu. He survived ambushes near Kiso. But he never stayed long. His presence attracted attention. A giant black swordsman was impossible to hide. Some said he was hunting the remnants of Akechi's forces, executing vengeance one blade at a time. Others claimed he sought out lost survivors of Nobunaga's army, trying to build a hidden resistance. There were whispers that he carried Nobunaga's final haiku, scrawled in blood and smoke, tucked inside his armor. But Yasuke never confirmed nor denied. He spoke rarely, and when he did, it was only to ask, "Where is the honor now?" In the late 1590s, a letter arrived from an unlikely source. Date Masamune, the one-eyed warlord of Sendai. Masamune, ambitious and unconventional, had heard of the foreign ronin who fought like thunder and moved like mist. He extended an invitation, joined his court as an honored warrior. Yasuke, weary and ghost-like, accepted. At Masamune's stronghold, he was given armor again, a blade, a horse, and respect. For a time, Yasuke was reborn. He trained Masamune's soldiers in unconventional tactics, fighting against multiple enemies, disarming from horseback, and using strength to break katana blocks. But more than that, he offered knowledge. He described battles under Nobunaga, the tactics of the Portuguese, the greed of European powers. Masamune was fascinated. He saw in Yasuke a bridge between two worlds. But peace does not last in the world of warlords. In 1600, the Battle of Sekigahara shattered the old power structures. Tokugawa Ieyasu seized control. Masamune bent the knee. Yasuke understood the winds had changed again. And he vanished once more, this time leaving no trace. The final confirmed sighting came from a merchant's journal in 1605. He described a duel in a coastal town, a foreign ronin battling a corrupt local lord's enforcer. The town was under shadow rule, its people extorted, its fields burned. The duel took place at dusk, amid swaying bamboo. The merchant recorded. He moved like a storm, black armor cracked from years of wear. The opponent never had a chance. One cut, one step, silence. Then he vanished into the sea mist. After that, Yasuke became a legend. A wandering guardian, a silent judge, a memory kept alive not by temples or tombs, but by stories. Children practiced their sword stances, saying, "Strike like Yasuke." Old warriors raised cups in his name during festivals. Even the samurai who once scoffed now whispered his tale, of the man who came from beyond the horizon, rose beside Nobunaga, survived betrayal, and walked into history alone. Yasuke was not just a man. He had become a myth. And in Japan, myths never die. Centuries passed. The Tokugawa shogunate erased much of the Sengoku chaos from public memory. Records were destroyed, stories sanitized, Christianity was outlawed, foreigners forbidden. By the 1700s, Yasuke's name had become a hushed tale among swordsmiths and monks, rarely written, often doubted. No grave was ever found. No official record of death. Only fragments. One such fragment lay hidden in a scroll preserved in a crumbling temple outside Kyoto. It told of a dark-skinned warrior who refused to kneel, who appeared during famines and earthquakes, defending the weak and vanishing before thanks could be offered. It called him Kuro no Kami, the black god of war. Historians dismissed it as folklore. But in the 19th century, a German ethnographer traveling through Japan documented a peculiar shrine near the Kiso Mountains. The locals refused to name the shrine's deity aloud. But when pressed, an elder whispered, "He was taller than any tree. His skin the color of the raven's wing. His sword sang louder than the thunder. He came when we were conquered, and stayed until we were free." On a weathered stone at the base of the shrine was a single carving, barely visible beneath moss and lichen. A katana, a rising sun, and beside it, a footprint, far too large to be Japanese. It wasn't until the late 20th century that Yasuke's name returned to academic circles. In 1935, an African scholar named Dr. Amadou Kane found mention of a black retainer in an old Portuguese missionary diary held in the Vatican archives. He followed the trail to Nagasaki, then to Kyoto. Though much had been lost to time, the fragments aligned. The Jesuits had recorded him. The samurai had remembered him. The people had honored him, even in silence. By the early 2000s, Yasuke began to reappear, in manga, novels, museum exhibits. But what they captured in ink and animation was only a shadow of the man. Because what truly defined Yasuke wasn't just his strength, or his uniqueness, or the battles he survived. It was the choice he made, to stay. He could have returned to Europe, sought glory among Portuguese merchants, written his name into European military history. But instead, he remained in Japan, served a foreign lord, took up a foreign blade, adopted a foreign code. And in doing so, became something that no historian could fully explain. A foreigner accepted by samurai. A stranger who embodied Bushido more than many born to it. A ghost in a country that does not forget its warriors. Today, statues of Yasuke stand in scattered corners of Japan, not grand but deliberate. His image appears in murals, comics, and classrooms. In African diasporas, he's revered as a symbol of resilience. In Japan, he is whispered of as a curiosity, and a quiet pride. Every few years, a filmmaker or writer rediscovers his legend, igniting global interest. But none have yet told it as it was, no embellishment needed. Just a man, torn from his homeland, thrown into a war-torn empire. Rising not through deception or chance, but discipline, loyalty, and fearless courage. A samurai without a name to protect. A soldier without a country. A blade in the service of honor alone. And that is why Yasuke endures. Because in the folds of history where others fade, he casts a longer shadow. There is a legend, quietly passed among monks in the Hida Mountains, that when Japan faces its darkest hour, and the code of honor is nearly lost, a warrior will return. He will not come in fire, nor in lightning, but in silence. He will wear old armor and walk without fear. His blade will be dulled by time, but still sharp enough to cut through lies. And when he speaks, even the ghosts will listen. They say he will come from the sea, as he once did. And when he returns, Japan will remember. Not the chaos. Not the blood. But the man who chose to stay. Yasuke. The Black Samurai.